Well, James Lavelle, welcome back to Australia. How many times have you been here now?
It's been a few. The first time I came here was, my daughter was 12, so 14 years ago.
Wow.
And that was for some pretty mad tour I did with, it was Beastie Boys and Rancid and Foo
You were saying
Fighters
that before, and Sonic
Youth, yeah.
How did you go? Obviously you have a very eclectic taste anyway, but doing working at Fabric and playing a lot of house and that sort of thing.
I wasn't really playing like that then. It was Mowak's era. It was me, DJ Shadow and Attica Blues. And it was more of a mashup of kind of hip-hop and funk and soul and kind of the odd weird, early kind of more sort of eclectic drum and bass or techno record.
Well, of course, giving a potted history of you, it's amazing, starting Mowak's, signing DJ Shadow, DJ, producer, all that sort of stuff, which is absolutely incredible. And of course the Unkle project, which has morphed over the years, and that basically brings us up to a brand new Unkle record which is coming out in May. Because it's no one's really had a chance to hear much of it, perhaps you could tell us a little bit about it. I've had a chance to listen to it on streaming, and I think it's an incredible record.
Thank you. I think the main thing is that the record has been kind of made more as a sort of band dynamic. After War Stories, it was the first time that we went live, and we sort of built this crew of people that have been kind of involved in that, and on some of the singers that were involved in War Stories and the band members. So for 2 years we did that, and it kind of we ended up sort of building more of a core unit of people that we've been recording with. So,
did you mean that War Stories was actually the first time that you played live as
Unkle? A band? Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. I mean, we did a sort of few sound system-y kind of DJing with Ian Brown singing kind of shows, but we never did anything as a proper band, and I think it was always something I think we were scared of doing. But it just really needed to happen for us to really move on I think now more than ever, it's a really important thing. I kind of wish I did it years ago. It was also one of these kind of conscious things where I was like, I'm my early 30s. If I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. And it's basically changed everything.
Well, that's certainly evident on the album, as you say, the live thing coming through very much on this record.
It's a more organic recording process. And
but the other thing that, of course, that stands out is the Psychedelia on this record.
Right, yeah.
Is that like a product of the live band?
I think I'm working with Pablo, who's sort of now become the partner in Unkle, as it were. He's been involved in every record except for science fiction, but was never sort of considered a main member. He had a group called the Psychonauts, which were on Mowak's, and we were just over the last few years been getting into a lot of psychedelic records, looking for different rhythms. So there's quite a lot of Afrobeat rhythms on the record. We wanted the record to be a bit more groove based, and it's not so guitar driven. It's more electronic, even though it's not like electronic in a kind of clean house way. But it's just the fact that we're utilising a lot more synthesizers. A la like Animal Collective, or even like when you hear the new Vampire Weekend record, it's just sort of using analog keyboards in more on the record. We also wanted to make a record where it wasn't heavily collaborative in I suppose in such a well-known way. It was nice to work with new bands. So we've worked with a band called Sleepy Sun from San Francisco, the Black Angels from Texas. There's a singer called Ellie J, who is in a band called the Dark Horses. She has been touring with us, and she's amazing. Katrina from a band called Celebration, who she sang on TV, on the radio as Wolf Like Me, and she's doing a record with Dave Siddick at the moment. Myself singing, Gavin singing, who was on the last record,
of course,
and Joel Cadbury from South.
Love his voice.
Yeah, so it's I don't know, there's something quite.
And Autolux, yeah, of course.
Don't
forget that, and that's one of my favourite tracks from the album.
And I suppose probably the most well known of artists that we work with is Mark Lanigan.
That's a beautiful track. That came out so well.
Yeah, I'm just so happy about that record.
I think maybe it's the strength of the collaborations that gives this album I say psychedelia, but it's not a second hand. It's got quite an authentic feel.
Yeah, well, that's great to hear. I mean, it's what we've tried to do, and I really always try and make a cohesive record. I think this record is less conceptual in the fact that I hope that tracks stand out for themselves in their own way, rather than having to be in the context of a whole album. So when you listen to something like Science Fiction or the last 3 albums we've made, I think as an experience they take you on this journey, and they kind of work as an experience, and tracks kind of fill certain gaps to make that journey work. Whereas this record, I really think things stand up on their own. They just kind of stand out as individual tracks, but as a piece of music, as an album, it does take you on a journey. And like I said, I think it is more groove based. Just that it's the drums and stuff. It's a little bit more simple. It's a little bit more rolling. It's not the War Stories tended to kind of be a lot sharper and angular, and mainly because we'd been working with in the desert and doing a little bit more of a kind of messing with the sort of rock guitar led Chris Goss kind of sound. I think this record, we've kind of pulled it in. There's a bit of everything. There's a bit of all records.
Do you think you have to go through that sort of War Stories experience to arrive at this record?
Yeah.
Because they are actually quite different. I mean, they're both rock records, but from very different sort of ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the main things with this record is we made it at home. We made it in our own studio, and it was very much about our crew of people that we, like the Joels and the Gavins, and we were, being very involved in that way.
And the collaborations on it are more American-based than previous records.
Yeah, you know what? It just happened. It wasn't a conscious thing. It was, we actually. It's been a strange record to make. We kind of made it. It's like we built it from the roof down. When I came in here, I was saying how, it's kind of been quite a weird experience. They always are, but we ended up working on 28 songs all at the same time, and started slowly going out of our minds, basically. Eventually, the sort of as the stronger tracks that kind of you agree on between the three of us that were mainly recording it, which is myself, Pablo, and James, who's the bass player in our band. We sort of came up that there was sort of 14 main tracks that we wanted to finish, and it was because of the strength of the collaborations that had come through. Probably the songs were more defined, but it has been interesting that for some reason we've had more interest from working with American artists than we have with British artists in the last sort of on the process of this record. Even though I suppose Gavin and Joel and Lisa, they're all UK based. It's just that they're more the core of our group, so it doesn't seem so unique as working with an Orsolux or whatever.
So did those artists, the American artists, come over to do vocals, or were tracks sent to them?
It's the wonders of modern technology.
Yeah, because this is the interesting thing. You've got the whole live thing going on now with the band, and yet there's still that sort of recording process, and the two have kind of come together on this record, and it's worked really well to create a live feel and yet also a constructed feel. But
yeah,
not,
I mean,
not
that's why I was saying we kind of built it from the roof down, because we ended up we're a self-sufficient band in the fact that we have our own label. We have to do it all ourselves, and that there is a reality to things like cash flow of keeping a business going, etc. So we thought we're going to have a record out last year. We're going to make it in 3 months. It's going to be out quickly. That sort of morphed into a year and a half.
I was kind of stunned actually by the pace in which War Stories and then more stories.
And we've been doing a lot,
because so many bands now take like 12 years to make a shit record.
Yeah, well, that's what we're trying not to do. Yeah. And also because, before I had a label and I was dealing with all that, now you can put all that energy into making music. And but we ended up sort of not knowing who was definitely going to collaborate. There was a lot of interest from lots of different people, but we were making the record predominantly over the summer. Bad time to make a record because everybody's touring. And then that sort of dragged on, but we had all these sessions booked. So Chris Goss came over to do a bit of work. We'd had these crazy drum sessions that we booked, all these recording sessions of recording sort of certain guitars in certain studios and blah, blah, blah. And we ended up with all this music recorded, but not many songs. And then it was sort of deciphering all that, and then sort of collaborators coming in, and so it's been quite a strange experience. But I do think that's why it's actually got more of an organic feel about the record, because it was recorded in more of a traditional kind of band way, actually. I think, who knows next time, but they're always an interesting journey.